So, in last lecture of chemical bonding, we were discussing about the factors on which ionic bond strength depend, and I have mentioned two factors. So I will start or recall those factors. Then the first factor is ionization enthalpy. The first factor on which ionic bond strength depend, that is ionization enthalpy. As we know, ionization enthalpy is the amount of energy required to remove the most loosely bound electron from isolated gaseous atom. Hence, higher will be the ionization energy, difficult will be the formation of cation, so weaker will be the ionic bond. Hence, we can say that for stronger ionic bond, the ionization enthalpy of cation should be low. For stronger ionic bond, the ionization enthalpy of cation should be low. And the second factor I mentioned, that was electron affinity. Electron affinity or electron gain enthalpy. Electron affinity or electron gain enthalpy. As we know, the electron affinity is the ability of a isolated gaseous atom to attract the electrons, or we can say that the amount of energy released when an electron is added to isolated gaseous atom, that is known as electron affinity. So higher will be the electron affinity, easily will be the formation of an ion, so stronger will be the ionic bond. Stronger will be the ionic bond. Hence, for stronger ionic bond, electron affinity should be high. And the third factor on which ionic bond strength depend, that is the lattice enthalpy. That is the lattice enthalpy. And lattice enthalpy is denoted by symbol U. Lattice enthalpy is denoted by symbol U, and it is the amount of energy released when one mole of ionic compound is formed from its ions in gaseous state. 1 mole of ionic solid is formed from its ion in gaseous state. Both cation and anion should be in gaseous state, and 1 mole of ionic solid is formed, that is known as lattice enthalpy. Hence, more will be the lattice enthalpy, lesser will be the potential energy of the ionic compound. So we can say that stronger will be the ionic bond. So for stronger ionic bond, the lattice enthalpy should be high. For stronger ionic bond, the lattice enthalpy should be high. So I am repeating those factors. For stronger ionic bond, ionization enthalpy should be low, electron affinity should be high, and lattice enthalpy should be high. Now we have to discuss the factors on which the lattice enthalpy depends. Factors on which lattice enthalpy depend. Generally, the lattice enthalpy will depend on two factors, and the first one is charge of the ions. As according to Coulomb's law of electrostatic, we know F is equal to K into Q1, Q2 over R square. Hence, higher will be the charge, more will be the lattice enthalpy. Higher will be the charge, more will be the lattice enthalpy, and so the lattice enthalpy is directly proportional to magnitude of charge. And the second factor is size. Second factor is size. So larger will be the size, lesser will be the lattice enthalpy. Larger will be the size, lesser will be the lattice enthalpy. And on basis of above two factors discussed, the order of lattice enthalpy should be di-divalent salts have highest, then di-univalent salt, and then finally univalent salt. Di-divalent salt have highest, then di-univalent salt, then univalent salt. Now question might be there on this topic. For example, first question is which is having highest lattice enthalpy. Which is having highest lattice enthalpy. And your options are MgO, second option is MgCl2, third option is KCl, and fourth option is Na2O. As I explained, the lattice enthalpy will depend on charge and size. So here MgO should have highest lattice enthalpy because it is a di-divalent salt. Next question may be very important one, which is having highest lattice enthalpy, and options are LiCl, NaCl, KCl, RBCl and CSCl. Here one exception is there. Actually, according to the data given, lithium chloride should have highest lattice enthalpy, but that is not case. Here NaCl should have highest lattice enthalpy because lithium will form generally covalent compound instead of ionic compound. Hence NaCl has highest lattice enthalpy among the chloride of alkali metals. I hope you understand the concept of lattice enthalpy. Now we have to discuss about the method or way by which we can calculate the lattice enthalpy. Method or way by which we can calculate the lattice enthalpy of any compound. So for calculation of lattice enthalpy of any compound, we can use Born-Haber cycle. We can use Born-Haber cycle for calculation of lattice enthalpy and electron gain enthalpy. In chemical classification, I have already mentioned the lattice enthalpy can be calculated by use of Born-Haber cycle, or electron gain enthalpy can be calculated by use of Born-Haber cycle. Actually, this cycle is based on Hess law. The Born-Haber cycle will be based on Hess law, and Hess law is the application of first law of thermodynamics. Hess law is the application of first law of thermodynamics. Hess law is the application of first law of thermodynamics. That is also known as conservation law of energy. That is also known as conservation law of energy. And according to this law, energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, but it can be changed from one form to another form. Energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, but it can be changed from one form to another form. Now we have to discuss about Hess law. And Hess law states that enthalpy is a state function. According to Hess law, enthalpy is a state function, hence its value will depend on initial and final state only, not on path. The enthalpy is a state function, so the value of enthalpy will depend on initial and final state only, not on path. Now I am drawing the Born-Haber cycle for a solid Mx. I am drawing the Born-Haber cycle for a solid Mx. So let's suppose as metal is there, it will be in solid state. M should be in solid state. Halogen is there, so it will be in gaseous state. M solid plus half of X2 gas gives compound form will be Mx solid, 1 mole. So here the enthalpy will be enthalpy of formation. Now I have to convert this solid into gas, so I have to provide the enthalpy of sublimation. Now in gaseous atom is converted into cation. For that I have to provide ionization enthalpy. Next I have to convert this molecule into atom, so I have to dissociate it. So I have to provide bond dissociation enthalpy by 2. And now this gaseous atom is converted into anion, so I have to provide electron gain enthalpy, and these two combine together to give 1 mole of solid, and here the enthalpy should be lattice enthalpy. And from this, as I have already mentioned, according to Hess law, enthalpy is a state function, so its value will depend on initial and final state only. So formula we will get delta HF is equal to delta H sublimation plus ionization enthalpy plus bond dissociation enthalpy by 2 plus electron gain enthalpy plus lattice enthalpy. This should be our applied formula. And in numericals, any 5 terms will be given and one have to be calculated by us. And keep it in mind, generally electron gain enthalpy and lattice enthalpy should have negative sign. Electron gain enthalpy and lattice enthalpy should have negative sign. Now I am taking a numerical one in this, which can be asked in your competitive exams. Question is there, if enthalpy of formation of NaCl, enthalpy of formation of NaCl is minus 690 kilojoule per mole. Enthalpy of sublimation of sodium, enthalpy of sublimation of sodium is plus 220 kilojoule per mole. Ionization enthalpy of sodium is plus 330 kilojoule per mole. Bond dissociation enthalpy of chlorine molecule is 210 kilojoule per mole, and electron gain enthalpy of chlorine is minus 530 kilojoule per mole. Then find out the lattice enthalpy. So before doing this, or we can directly apply the formula or draw the Born-Haber cycle for NaCl. For that, sodium will be in solid state, chlorine will be in gaseous state, and they will combine together to give molecule NaCl, which is in solid state. Here the enthalpy will be enthalpy of formation. Now we have to convert sodium solid into gas. We need to provide enthalpy of sublimation. Then sodium atom is converted into cation. For that I have to provide ionization enthalpy. Chlorine molecule into chlorine atom, I have to provide bond dissociation enthalpy. And this chlorine atom into chloride ion, for that I have to give electron gain enthalpy. And these two in gaseous state combine to give 1 mole of NaCl. So here there will be lattice enthalpy. So formula applied will be delta HF is equal to delta H sublimation plus ionization enthalpy plus bond dissociation enthalpy by 2 plus electron gain enthalpy plus lattice enthalpy. Now put the given values. Enthalpy of formation is minus 690. Enthalpy of sublimation is 220. Electron gain enthalpy is 330. Bond dissociation enthalpy is 210 upon 2 minus 530 plus lattice enthalpy we have to find. From this data, lattice enthalpy should be equal to minus 690 minus 220 minus 330 minus 105 plus 530. And from this we will get lattice enthalpy is minus 160 minus 220 minus 330 minus 105. Now we have to add all the terms. So here we will get 5 and then 6, 8, 11, 2, 4, 7, 8. And so that comes out to be minus 815 kilojoule per mole. This should be our lattice enthalpy. I hope you understand this numerical. On basis of this, there may be more numerical in your books. So please do those. And if any problem is there, then send to me through my WhatsApp number 97280352202. Now we have to discuss one more topic, and that topic is also very relevant for your exams, and that topic is properties of ionic solids. Properties of ionic solids. First one, they are crystalline in nature. The ionic compound are crystalline in nature. Crystalline means the particles are arranged in a regular manner. The particles are arranged in a regular manner. Second point is they are hard in nature. Due to regular arrangement of particle, they must be hard. Third point is they have high and sharp melting point. They have high and sharp melting points. They have high and sharp melting points. Fourth one is they are polar in nature. They are polar in nature, means in them the positive and negative charges are separated from each other. Fifth one is very important one. They are generally water soluble. They are generally water soluble. But keep it in mind, the lattice enthalpy is also important factor. Generally we use solubility principle to predict the solubility. We use solubility principle to predict the solubility of any compound, and according to solubility principle, like dissolve like. According to solubility principle, like dissolve like means polar substance should be soluble in polar substances and non-polar substances should be soluble in non-polar substances. But the lattice enthalpy is a very important factor. If lattice enthalpy is greater than hydration enthalpy, then that substance should be water insoluble. If lattice enthalpy is greater than hydration enthalpy, then that substance should be water insoluble. But if lattice enthalpy is lesser than hydration enthalpy, then that substance should be water soluble. So, few examples are there. For example, barium sulfate, BaSO4, is polar in nature. Still, it is water insoluble. Why? Barium sulfate is polar in nature. Still, it is water insoluble. Why? Then reason is simple one. Because here lattice enthalpy is more than hydration enthalpy. Similarly, AgCl is polar in nature. Still, it is water insoluble. Why? Reason is same, because lattice enthalpy is greater than hydration enthalpy. And the next point is very important one, and that is that in solid state they are bad conductor. In solid state they are bad conductor. In solid state they are bad conductor, but in molten or aqueous state, in molten or aqueous state they are good conductor. In molten or aqueous state they are good conductor. In molten or aqueous state they are good conductor. Why? Then reason is that because solid state they have no free ions. In solid state they have no free ions, but in aqueous state they have free ions, so they are good conductor of electricity. And the last one is that they are not having directional bond in them. They are not having directional bond in them, so they cannot show stereoisomerism. They are not having directional bond in them, so they cannot have stereoisomerism in them. Now, on basis of these properties, few questions may be there in your exam, which may be asked in generally. I am discussing few of those questions which are very, very important one and have been asked in your previous exams. And the first one is, as I have mentioned, barium sulfate is polar in nature, still water insoluble. Barium sulfate is polar in nature, still water insoluble. Still water insoluble. Why? The reason is that because here the lattice enthalpy is more than hydration enthalpy. Because lattice enthalpy is more than hydration enthalpy. Same way this question may be asked. The solubility of sulfates of alkaline earth metal. The solubility of sulfates of alkaline earth metals decreases down the group. Why? Solubility of sulfates of alkaline earth metal decreases down the group. Why? Then reason is that because the lattice enthalpy remains almost same, but the hydration enthalpy decreases with increase of size. Lattice enthalpy remains almost same, but the hydration enthalpy decreases with increase of size according to polarization, power and rule. We will later on discuss. And the next question might be arrange BeSO4, BaSO4, MgSO4, SrSO4, BeSO4 and CaSO4 in increasing order of solubility in water. In increasing order of solubility in water. As I already mentioned, exceptionally the solubility decreases down the group because lattice enthalpy remains same, but the hydration enthalpy decreases with increase of size. So solubility order will be BaSO4 is least soluble. More than that will be SrSO4. More than that will be CaSO4. More than that will be MgSO4. Here beryllium sulfate BeSO4 is most soluble. BeSO4 is most soluble. Next question might be AgCl is polar in nature but insoluble in water. Why? AgCl is polar in nature, still water insoluble. Why? Then reason is same, because for AgCl lattice enthalpy is more than hydration enthalpy. Lattice enthalpy is more than hydration enthalpy, but exceptionally AgCl is soluble in ammonia. Why? Question may be there in exams. AgCl is soluble in ammonia. Why? Then reason is that due to formation of donor receptor bond or complex. AgCl will form a complex with ammonia, that's why it is water soluble, and the equation might be AgCl plus 2NH3 gives a complex AgNH3 twice Cl. Here the coordination bond is formed which is going to be discussed by us in later on. Now next question might be NaCl in solid state is a bad conductor. NaCl in solid state is a bad conductor, but aqueous NaCl is a good conductor. Why? NaCl in solid state is a bad conductor, but aqueous NaCl is a good conductor. Why? The reason is that because solid NaCl has no free ions. Solid NaCl has no free ions, but aqueous NaCl has free ions. Next question might be there, why does aqueous NaCl has free ions? Why does aqueous NaCl has free ions? The reason is that because of high dielectric constant of water. Water has dielectric constant 81, so the forces of attraction become negligible. NaCl in aqueous state has free ions due to high dielectric constant of water. The forces of attraction become negligible. After discussing the ionic bond, I am starting a new topic, and that topic is Lewis dot structure or Lewis dot symbol. In last year, in 10th class, you might have discussed about Lewis dot structure or Lewis dot symbol. Lewis dot structure or Lewis dot symbol. These are also important topic. In short form, we can write down it like LDS. LDS means Lewis dot structure or Lewis dot symbol, and it may be defined as symbolic representation of an element or compound with its valence electron. Symbolic representation of an element or compound with its valence electron, whether valence electron are shown with dot or cross. Whether valence electron are shown with dot and cross, that is known as Lewis dot symbol. Now I am discussing the Lewis dot symbol of first 20 element, few compounds, and then we will find out the formal charge. So here the first one is hydrogen atom. Its atomic number is 1 and electronic configuration will be 1. So it has one valence electron. So its Lewis dot symbol will be H and 1 dot. So its valency will be 1. Keep it in mind, valency should be equal to number of unpaired electrons. Valency should be equal to number of unpaired electrons. Next is helium. Atomic number is 2. So electronic configuration according to K11HL will be 2. So there are 2 electrons. But here both electrons are shown as a pair because it is a lone pair. So valency of helium should be 0. Valency of helium should be 0. Next one is lithium. Atomic number is 3. So here configuration will be 2, 1. According to K11HL, it will be 2, 1. So valence electron is 1. So we have to show 1 dot so valency will be 1. Next is beryllium, atomic number is 4, so electronic configuration 2 2. We have to show 2 electrons which are unpaired, so valency is 2. Next one is boron, atomic number 5, so it will be 2 3. 3 valence electron shown as unpaired electron, so valency is 3. Next is carbon, atomic number 6 2 4. 4 dot we have to show which are unpaired, so valency is 4. Next one is nitrogen 7 2 5. Here 5 unpaired electron are there, valence electron are there, but 2 will be in form of lone pair and 3 unpaired, so valency will be 3. Next is oxygen 8 2 6. 2 lone pair and 2 unpaired electron. 2 lone pair and 2 unpaired electron, valency will be 2. Next one is fluorine, atomic number 9 2 7. Symbol will be 3 lone pair and 1 unpaired electron, so valency is 1. Neon, atomic number is 10, so it will be 2 8. 4 lone pair are there on neon atom, so valency is 0. Now we have to discuss the Lewis dot symbol of third period elements. For third period element, first will be sodium. For sodium, atomic number is 11, so electronic configuration of K11 cell will be 2 8 1. So 1 valence electron is there, so its valency will be 1. Next is magnesium 12, so electronic configuration 2 8 2. 2 unpaired electron we have to show separately, so valency is 2. Next is aluminium 13 2 8 3. 3 valence electron are there, we have to show 3 unpaired electron, so valency is 3. Next one is silicon 14 2 8 4. 4 valence electron shown as unpaired, so valency will be 4. Next one is phosphorus 15 2 8 5, so it will be 5 but 1 lone pair, 3 unpaired electrons, so valency will be 3. Sulfur 16 2 8 6. 2 lone pair and 2 unpaired electrons are there, so valency is 2. Chlorine 17 2 8 7, so it will be 3 lone pair and 1 unpaired electron, valency is 1. Next is argon 18 2 8 8, so 4 lone pair are there, so valency will be 0. Next is potassium 19, so it will be 2 8 8 1. 1 unpaired electron, so valency is 1. Similarly for calcium 20, it will be 2 8 8 2. 2 unpaired electrons, so valency will be. I have discussed the first 20 elements. Now I am taking example of few molecules, and then we will discuss the concept of formal charge. Which is a very important topic for your objective exams. And the first molecule I am taking the simplest case, that is hydrogen. And to write down the Lewis dot structure, keep it in mind, the atoms will combine to complete their octet or duplet. They want to have 2 or 8 electrons, and in doing so they will form the pairs. And these pairs can be of two types, bond pair and lone pair. These can be of two types, bond pair and lone pair. When a pair is formed by combination of 2 atoms, that will be the bond pair. And if pair is formed by single atom, that will be lone pair. And in case of hydrogen, the Lewis dot symbol will be 2 electrons will be shared between 2 atoms, because both want to complete their duplet. So if question might be there, how many bond pair are there? Then bond pair are 1. How many lone pair are there? Then will be 0. And next case is O2 molecule. As we know, each molecule, oxygen atom is having 2 unpaired electrons. So 2 oxygen atom will combine to have 2 bond pair and 4 lone pair. two oxygen atoms will combine to have two bond pair and four lone pair. Next one is fluorine. For fluorine molecule, one unpaired electron is there, so two fluorine atom combine to have one bond pair and six lone pair. One bond pair and six lone pair. Next, I am taking example of CH4 molecule. Here, hydrogen should complete its duplet and carbon should complete its octet. Carbon should complete its octet. And one thing more, keep it in mind, the second period element can never have more than 8 electrons in their valence shell. Second period element can never have more than 8 electrons in their valence shell because of absence of vacant d orbital. But third period might have, and due to which the superoctet molecule will be formed. Next case I am taking, that is ammonia. As we know, nitrogen is having one lone pair and three bond pair. In ammonia, there will be one bond pair and three lone pair. Next case is CO2 molecule. In CO2, there are four bond pair and four lone pair. Four bond pair and four lone pair. I hope you understand the concept of Lewis dot structure and you can easily draw these. The electrons might be shown with dot or cross. Now I am discussing a very important topic, and that topic is formal charge. That topic is formal charge. There might be question in objectives regarding the formal charge. First of all, we have to know what is formal charge. So, formal charge may be defined as charge present on an atom of an element in its Lewis dot structure. Charge present on an atom in its Lewis dot structure, that is known as formal charge. Formal charge. And formal charge of any atom can be found out by use of this formula. Valence electron of atom minus half of bond pair electrons, half of bond pair electrons minus lone pair electrons. The formal charge of any atom of an element can be found out by use of this formula. Valence electron on atom minus half of bond pair electron minus lone pair electron. Now I am taking few examples, and the first case is, what are the formal charge of carbon and hydrogen in methane? Formal charge of carbon and hydrogen in methane. The Lewis dot structure will be like this. Four bond pair will be there. Oxygen will complete its duplet, and hydrogen should complete its duplet, and carbon should complete its octet. First, we have to find out formal charge of carbon. As we know, carbon has 4 valence electron and it has formed 4 bonds, so 8 bond pair electron. Lone pair is 0, so formal charge of carbon comes out to be 0. Similarly, formal charge of hydrogen, as we know, each hydrogen has 1 valence electron and they have formed 1 bond, so that's why bond pair electron will be 2 and lone pair shouldn't be there, 0. So that's why formal charge of hydrogen is also 0. Next case I am taking, what is the formal charge of nitrogen and hydrogen in ammonium ion? Formal charge of nitrogen and hydrogen in ammonium ion. As we know, ammonium ion has formula NH4 positive. Here the possible structure will be like this: 4 bond pair on nitrogen, as it has to complete its octet, and 2 electron on each hydrogen as they have completed their duplet. So first we have to find out formal charge of hydrogen. Same, valence electron is 1 minus 1 by 2 into 2 minus 0, that comes out to be 0. Now we have to find out formal charge of nitrogen. As we know, nitrogen has valence electron 5 minus bond pair electron are 8 minus 1 by 2 and lone pair is 0. So that's why the formal charge comes out to be plus 1. Next example I am taking, what are the formal charge of carbon and oxygen in CO2 molecule? Carbon and oxygen in CO2 molecule. As we have already discussed the Lewis dot structure, there are 8 electrons for carbon and each oxygen is having 2 lone. First, formal charge of carbon, we know valence electron carbon has 4 minus 1 by 2, 4 bond, that's why 8 electron. Lone pair is 0, that's why it comes out to be 0. Now formal charge of oxygen, there are 6 valence electron, minus 1 by 2 into 4, minus 4, that also comes out to be 0. Next we have to discuss about the formal charge of carbon and oxygen in carbonate ion. Formal charge of carbon and oxygen in carbonate ion. As we know, carbonate ion has formula CO3 2 negative. So it's possible Lewis dot structure will be like this. Carbon has to complete its octet, so 8 electron. So there are 1 oxygen with a double bond and 2 oxygen with a single bond. So we have to find out their formal charge separately. First of all, we have to find out formal charge of carbon. As carbon has 4 valence electron, minus 1 by 2, bond pair electron are 8, lone pair is 0, that's why that comes out to be 0. Now we have to find out formal charge of double bonded oxygen. Double bonded oxygen, the uppermost will be double bonded. So here valence electron are 6, minus 1 by 2 into 4, minus 4, and that comes out to be 0. Now we have to find out the formal charge of single bonded oxygen. Single bonded oxygen, valence electron are 6, minus 1 by 2 into 2, minus 6, as 3 lone pair are there, so that comes out to be minus 1. And the last 2 examples I am taking, which are also a very important one. And the first one is what is the formal charge of each oxygen in ozone? Each oxygen in ozone. Actually, in ozone there are 3 kind of oxygen atoms. In ozone there are 3 kinds of atoms. One is double bonded oxygen, second one is single bonded oxygen, and the last one is the central oxygen. So we have to find out formal charge of each and every one differently. First case, for central oxygen I am finding. Central oxygen, valence electron are 6, minus 1 by 2 into bond pair electron are 6 and lone pair is electron are 2, that comes out to be plus 1. The central oxygen has a formal charge plus 1. Now we have to find out formal charge of double bonded oxygen. For that, 6 minus 1 by 2 into 4, minus 4, that comes out to be 0. And the last formal charge of single bonded oxygen, 6 minus 1 by 2 into 2, minus 6, that comes out to be minus 1. So oxygen in ozone can have formal charge 0, plus 1 and minus 1. And the last case I am taking, that is of hydrozoic acid, and its structure can be like this: N double bond N, single bond N H. Now we have to find out the formal charge of each nitrogen. So these double bonded oxygen should have formal charge 0, and the last one has formal charge minus 1. I hope you understand the concept of formal charge. It is a very important topic. Tomorrow we will discuss a new topic, and that will be about covalent bond, coordination bond, compounds, properties of covalent compound, and Vesper theory. Till then, stay connected, stay positive, and stay studied. Thank you.